The question on the table is, has America fallen? Is she in the midst of the fall? And what is the fall out of the fall? Well, you want to know why I know America has fallen? And it just came to me today. We elected Donald Trump as president of these United States. Now, you could say Hillary won by 3 million more votes, but still 60 million people in this country, 100 million sat home, which tells me that they don't give a damn. And now it looks like it's going to be a fight. It's not a cakewalk. It's not a cakewalk for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And Kanye West, you just told me, made the ballot in Mississippi to be president of Kanye West. And you telling me this is a nation that should be taken seriously? We got a Carnival Barker reality TV show host who lies when he opens his mouth all the time. 5 deferments, 6, 7 bankruptcies, 2 divorces, baby out of wedlock, porn stars, P-tape, president. This is our leader. And we're a superpower? Are we? Why? Because of the military? I guess, yes, that's to be feared for sure. But even that can't last long. 866-801-8255.
Listen, how long before even the military starts to look at what's going on, right? With the president and the current president in place. I mean, the Mississippi thing throws me all the way off because Mississippi is my birthplace, but this comes after the reason why I think that Kanye being on the ballot is more than just a ridiculous headline for the sake of ridiculous headlines. The reality of it, though, goes back to just a couple of months ago where the Mississippi Elections Commissioner got on social media and was saying, I'm concerned about voter registration in Mississippi. She said, the blacks are having lots of events for voter registration. People in Mississippi have to get involved, too. She was concerned about...
Wait, pause. So blacks aren't people? Black people aren't people? We aren't people?
She said she meant for it to be private and that she misspoke right after this happened. But when you have a Mississippi election commissioner complaining that the blacks are registering to vote in high numbers, and then the next headline, a month later, is that Kanye West magically appears on the ballot in Mississippi, I feel like that we have to be just as innovative to fight racism and to fight, voter suppression as the racists and the voter suppressors are. Right? They will use anybody to get to as a means to their end. The RNC does not care about Kanye West. Donald Trump does not care about Kanye West. White people writ large probably do not care about Kanye West. Conservatives writ large probably do not care about Kanye West. But the conservative movement, whatever that is more than willing to use him as a means to their end.
But look how effective. So while you're saying we have to do X, Y, and Z, we have not done X, Y, and Z. Why would you think we are going to do X, Y, and Z? And the fact that they could put a Kanye West on the ballot and know that it's going to disrupt a Joe Biden presidency or a Joe Biden candidacy speaks volumes about not them, but us. Not them, but us. That speaks volumes about what if they put Popeye's chicken on the ballot? I hesitate to even have this particular conversation because, again, 2014, 2015, I thought I presented what was to me was common sense. I didn't ask for all 40 million, 38 million black people to register as Republicans. I said a couple of 3 million of us. Strategically, we put a candidate up in each state that's a closed primary to run against the incumbent. Why? Because I did the numbers. Most of the incumbents in the Senate, the House of Representatives, and local elections, it was a couple of thousand votes because most of them either ran unopposed or people don't show up in those local elections or the national elections in the primaries. They only show up for the general. So we can show up in mass, it's just a numbers game, and actually snatch seats. That's what they did with the Tea Party. It's an easy strategy. We're just copying a strategy. I got cussed out by black people, called all kinds of names in my own studio, on my own show with people who are on my show, cussing me out, crying and cussing me out, telling me that I'm a sellout. And I'm like, I knew then, Drew McCaskill, that
We
what
were
you're talking about right now, we ain't ready. I don't know what it's going to take to get ready. I'm talking to the converted in the choir. I'm preaching to the choir today, and I'm saying exit strategy has to be top of your list. Being prepared with your go bags and all of the things, and being prepared for anarchy, being prepared for, make sure your home security system is locked and low and tight. I'm trying not to use certain words. Make sure that you're prepared physically. Make sure you're healthy. Because we can't trust on our masses, our own masses. The same people who are talking about holding votes hostage are the same people that did nothing 3-4 years ago, did nothing during the 8 years of Obama to make any changes. But now all of a sudden they've found a conscience. There's no way my conscience can allow me to vote for Joe Biden. It's just too much. Come exactly. Yeah, Tuskegee.
Y'all see what that did for Eddie Glaude.
Oh, 86680. Please do educate us, Drew McCaskill. What happened?
Eddie Glaude, who is pundit, black, fan favorite. Conscience wouldn't allow him to vote for Hillary Clinton. Wrote a whole article about it in Atlantic and all the reasons why he couldn't do it.
And yet he was rewarded with more airtime and more book deals.
Absolutely.
So again, like, we really spend a lot of time putting people on pedestals and celebrating punditry. It's just theater. It's theater. They're no different really than any actor that you see. So I guess it would be fitting that Kanye West is on a ballot. That's what we seem to care about. And again, we know what we care about based on our clicks and algorithms and our eyeballs, our ratings, and what we read and what we celebrate. 866-801-8255. So yeah, this is a question. Also want to spend just a little bit of time today on the McDonald's lawsuit, because Drew McCaskill on these airwaves broke down a black burger versus a white burger when we were still in the studio before COVID, and it was one of the most profound things I'd ever heard. And now you fast forward, I think they were watching that, Drew McCaskill, and they were like, my black burger is more expensive, as a matter of fact, and they got together with a class action lawsuit against McDonald's to make it even. So let me thank you, Drew McCaskill. The black restaurant owners got together, filed a lawsuit last Tuesday. 52 former black McDonald's franchise owners saying that the company denied them the same opportunities as white franchisees, and they steered them instead to locations that are destined to fail. Drew McCaskill talked about that right here. So I want to thank you for that. Let's take some calls. 866-801-8255. Vincent in Jersey.
Mr. Hunter.
Hi.
Professor Hunter. How you
Hi,
doing?
Vincent.
Look,
Awesome.
I'm a constant contributor because I really love your show. But you just touched on something that just came out in the news. The movement of the blacks holding their votes hostage. Guess that they just found that to be a Russian social media mill backed by the Russians to stifle, to get the blacks to not vote or vote Trump.
Okay. What's the source?
CNN.
Okay, I'm gonna look that up, but I wouldn't be surprised. Go ahead.
And you want to check the last 3 groups that Facebook took off their posts. That's how they're trolling social media.
And should we shout out Facebook? I'm still not feeling them, but they're doing a little bit better and getting rid of the bad news on. By bad, I mean erroneous, not right, not truthful news that's on Facebook. So, thank you for that, Vincent. I wouldn't be surprised though. They did it last time.
Listen, what we saw in the last election is that people understand who moves conversations on social media. That the detractors, the bots, the election interferers, as well as the campaign. And Trump was spending close to $1 million a week on social media ads, right? And it's probably going to double that in the course of the next 2 months. So we got to take it. When I say that Black people move conversations, and that it is an enormous amount of power to be able to drive a conversation in a digital space and in a social space, and that Black people have more of that power concentrated than any other group, that's a fact. Those are our ability to do that. That is why those election interferers are trying to infiltrate and get into Black digital spaces and spaces where Black people congregate and converse, and trying to get Black people to drive certain conversations. So it is very strategic that some of these folks may be pushing narratives of hold the vote if there's not reparations included in the campaign strategy, or when people are going out and saying, well, there actually is a Biden-Harris plan for Black America. If it doesn't say this, then you still shouldn't vote. Hold the vote. Like, that is, you take a look at who's pushing that. Just because there's a little Black face in that circle on your social media feed does not mean that that is a real Black person saying that. Just because there's a African colored U.S. flag in that little image on social media does not mean that that is your brother who is also a descendant of the American slave trade, right? Like that. You do some research. Yeah. Do you actually know the person that you're amplifying?
And here's the other question. Does Trump have a reparations plan for Black people? 866-801-8255. I'm just asking a question. Does Trump have a reparations plan for Black people? What's his plan for Black people? Okay. 866-801-8255. And I wanted to, because I didn't address go back to Africa. You know, we should be investing in Africa. I think we absolutely should. Not just out of self-preservation, but because I think that there are certain emerging countries in Africa, from Ethiopia to Rwanda to there are some countries that are doing the most in Africa that we don't ever hear about. I think we should be looking at it. But again, we need to be mindful of the colonization there. We need to be mindful of the rush from China, from Arab nations in certain African countries, certain behaviors in African countries. Like, I don't want us to just go and set up shop in a space that we don't really know. Like, if we're going to go, we need to go en masse. We need to move en masse. If it's a couple of million of us doing it, yes. Handful of us, no. And we need to go with a plan. Like, let's be strategic.
And a plan that is African in the sense of that we want to plant and not just reap, right?
Come on.
I don't want us to look at the continent of Africa as, this safety net that we're going to go and build and rebuild Southside in a crop. I want us to think about what we're going to build that's going to be totally new. That's going to be a new thing that we're going to go off. If we were to do that, how would we do a new thing, a better thing that's not just better for us, but better for the people who are already there, so that we don't become colonizers ourselves?
And part of, getting back to Lovecraft Country for a second, part of the genius of that is it is making us think about how we still think like colonized people, that we still think like people who are in bondage, that and I touched on it last week. If you wake up and you realize that you're free, that you don't have to be twice as good, that the way you are is good enough to do anything that you want to do, that the world is your oyster because all ideas come through you anyway. And just get busy to building the thing that you want to live in, the neighborhood that you want to live in, to build the kind of schools you want to send your children to, and start with yourself. Then it frees you from this. We don't have to keep up with anybody. We don't have to, even the notion of keeping up with somebody. Who are we keeping up with? They can't catch us. Seriously, if you just realize that everything that you have is within your grasp to do, and you don't need anything, get your passport right and be ready to move however you need to move. But I think a lot of us are still chasing an ideal that's been ingrained in us that's not real to begin with.
Yeah.
Rome has fallen. America has fallen. What does that mean for us as we try to rebuild something that was built on a lie, a house of sand anyway? Right?
Yeah.
So, like what Drew is talking about, a new thing, this space that we're in requires a new thing, something that they haven't seen. Cooperative economics, collective work, self-determination, all of the tenets that are naturally part of who we are. That whole notion of trade and working together without contracts. I don't need to steal your talent because I have my own. So let's work to collaborate to build the thing that we want to. Like, that's the way we should be thinking, not what can I get? Let me come and steal all of your precious metals and gold and diamonds and humans. But let's see what we can build while we're there from the things that we're coming to the table with. I'm going to bring my thing of rice. You're going to bring your beans. You're going to bring your seasoning. We're going to have a nice dish at the end and everybody gets to eat because we all contributed. That's the world I want to live in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That other thing, too, that we got to, that speaks a little bit to what we were even talking about with Lovecraft and Ruby is that we also got to stop thinking that white water is colder, that white folks' water is colder, like that of chasing it the way the mainstream has done it, or that crossing over is the way to get to wealth. Y'all can say what y'all want about him and how he does everything, but I still love the fact that you've got an example of yet another person who said, I'm going to overserve Black people, in the Tyler Perry story that came out last week. And I'm going to overserve Black people. I don't want that you can chase that white Oscar if you want it. I choose not to want it. They'll probably give me one when I die anyway, just because. But I choose not to want that white Oscar, right? And look how free I am to do whatever I want to do because I don't want that white Oscar. I can do all of this other stuff in the midst of this blackness. Now, you can talk about what comes out of it and all of that, but for me, I feel like that there's something that gives you a different kind of freedom when you stop chasing the white American dream and figure out what the American dream really is for us in Black America. And I feel like that thing for us in Black America has to be collective power, has to be individual freedom and safety, right? Like, what gives us that? How do we get to that? How do we get to that space where I can move about freely with a level of security and happiness and safety? And I can do that when I move into spaces that are majority, or I can do that when I move into spaces that are not majority, right? What does that even look like? Where freedom to me feels like, what would it look like if I could say, I don't need these white folks' Oscar. I don't need these white folks' money. I don't need these white folks' job. I don't need these white folks' talent or title, right? How do I get to that?
It's a choice. It's a choice. And it may,
point?
And when you look at a Tyler Perry, he slept in his car. He charged his credit cards. He built his empire on his own dollar, going into those communities that were, they call it underserved. His communities, his people. He got mailing lists. He stayed in touch with them. He asked them what they wanted, and he served them what they wanted. He served them what they wanted. He fed them what they wanted. And they appreciated that. They made his movies number one every time they came out. Shocked Hollywood. How is this movie number one? Because he served. He overserved. He doubled down on his people. That got him there. And now, during COVID, not only has, I just read somewhere, 18, I think he produced 18 different TV shows. He's got more content now, probably than Netflix that had to go into debt to buy content. He produced it on his own lot, and I think he's starting his own airport. I think Tyler Perry is creating his own airport, and he crossed over to becoming a billionaire, all out of sleeping out of his car, not taking a corporate check, not having to do things their way, doing things exactly his way. And I've had this conversation with him. It is the thing that I most respect because that's the model. Listening to Joe Budden over the weekend talk about ownership. Now, you don't have to agree with anything, his skills to negotiate, but the reality is he can do anything he wants, when he wants, how he wants it. And that's what most of us want, but we're not willing to do the sacrifice on the other end, which is struggle for a minute, beg, borrow, and steal until you can get there and not sell out. That's hard because as soon as they come with that check, we're like, like Miss Pac-Man, we're going to come get that banana and that apple. And now I don't have now. But what you realize you're trading is your freedom. Because whether you're a $10 million in bondage person playing a sport or commenting on a sport or, $100,000 in bondage person or somebody making minimum wage, it's all bondage when you don't own your own time. And then they give you a couple of weeks vacation. 866-801-8255. It's all I've ever wanted. You don't need to be rich. That's the riches. Let's take Leela in Texas. Thank you for holding. Welcome to the Karen Hunter Show. Thank you for that, Drew. Hey, Leela.
Hey, Karen. Hey, thank you for taking my call. You asked a question about, you're good, Karen, and I want to say you don't need to go anywhere. This is your place. This is where you're supposed to be, and this is what you're saying, what you're supposed to be doing at this time, because no one else is doing this, and people are not listening. All the people that criticized you when you were at your job talking this, I get that too. But this is the thing. Yes, America has fallen. America has fallen. But the way to put America back is to understand that we here in America represent all of the pieces that makes it whole again. So if we were not here and we would just have tunnel vision in another country, we're here to have open vision, and everyone is here. We just need to put it back together, and people are not listening. And black people don't listen. When I say I is everything that I need and I does everything, I'm speaking English because I is the first person of the conversation in the English language. And people have to be careful about what they put with I. And when
Leela,
people say,
Leela, let me ask you a question. Why should we put this back together?
Because this is what God intended. That's why.
No, that's not no. You're saying we should put America back together, and I'm saying that America was founded on the notion of stolen land and bondage and murder and rape. America was founded on hypocrisy. Why should we put it back together? Why shouldn't we do what Drew is saying, is create a new thing?
Because this whole deal is biblical. And we have to go back to where the first sins were committed, when people served idol gods and did those things, and they need to get the hell out from over there. God didn't like that. And God is not a man. God is a spirit. God is an essence of force.
Okay. All right. But this is not, and I'm not discounting, because spiritually we can go there all day. I'm saying this conversation that we're having right now, that doesn't give us any tools to tell me something's biblical or spiritual and we just got to go to that's not the Bible that I read requires action. And it always is faith without deeds is foolish. Like there's something we must do, and it calls for wisdom. And there's a lot of that scripture in there that we don't adhere to. And there's a lot of scripture throwing around right now that this is that time and God is this and this and that. Listen, I do believe these are the last days. I absolutely do believe that. But what does that mean? The last days of what? The last days of what? And then what comes after it? We're not having that conversation, except we're having it right now today. And I'm asking the question because I need you to ask the question of yourself. I'm in a fallen land. Things are going to get worse before they get better. Trust me when I tell you this pandemic, both racially and virally, is not over. It's just beginning. What's your plan for yourself or your community? And then after it's over, can you see 10 years down? Where do you want to see yourself? Where do you want to see your community? I like what Drew is saying about a new thing. Because to put this thing back together again is to say what? That the way it was fine. And we find ourselves here today with an inept president, with the world on fire. Literally, you got jackasses doing a reveal party with pyrotechnics and setting off forest fires in California, in this country. That's how dumb we are. We're dumb. This is a dumb nation. What are we putting back together? Our education system sucks. We got Flint water, Newark water. We got lead in the water. You know what? That was a problem in Rome when it fell. It had lead in its water. I read that. I was like, yo, this is crazy. I'm not putting that back together. I'd rather leave and start over from scratch because this is a mess, or I'd rather collectively think about what kind of world do we want to live in. What kind of world do we want to live in?
And what folks we gonna take with us, right? Like if that's to happen, like whether what folks we're gonna bring with us on literally, if we were to go someplace en masse, or figuratively, what we're gonna do about building a new thing here amongst us as a community, and how we engage each other, and how we respond and react to each other, and how we make demands in mass, and how we think through what it is that we want, and how we give it to each other while also demanding from those who owe us, right? Is that I think about how we've got to change our mindset about not just that white water is wetter or colder, but also to stop internalizing these caste system ideas about what's honorable work and what's good work. One of the things that I loved about Queen Sugar, which was a show on OWN, was that they actually elevated the work that people in my family in the South, in Mississippi and Louisiana, did with pride, right? My father left his role in a classroom to go work on an oil rig, right? And it changed the whole trajectory of what he was able to do for not only his kids, but, the other ones of my cousins that he helped put through school because of that, because of his decision to do that. It elevates agriculture, like that farming is something that's been a part of the Black community that it's like one of those jobs that we don't elevate to the same level anymore. Like there are other great jobs that are honorable in our community besides being a preacher, a teacher, a doctor, and a lawyer, right? Like farming, to farm land, particularly land that you actually own, I think we need to get back to putting that on the same level of our agricultural skills, to renew our mind about who we take with us and how we praise and how we honor the work and what's going on in our communities. We got to think about this differently and talk to kids differently about work. Yeah, I want to see tons of kids who know how to code, but I would love for us to also have kids who live outside of rural parts of the world who actually know how to grow some shit too, right?
Come on.
It doesn't have to be either or.
866-801-8255, who we take with us. I think that's a super important highlight there, because it seems to me that there are a whole lot of people that are comfortable doing nothing than doing something. And again, we tell the world what we care about, what we support and what we do. There's a whole lot of bandwagon jumping on with the vote hostage, but when somebody presents a strategy to actually change the system, you don't want to do that. That requires you doing something. Sitting home is easy.
Right.
Anybody can sit home.